Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.
Dude, is that your Wonder CM7?
Yeah, dude.
Yours?
Yeah.
Dude, the Wonder mics are good, man. I have a Perlman. You know Perlman mics?
Perlman.
Dave Perlman.
No.
You know, one California guy. He has a killer 47 clone as well. But the Wonder one, like, that's pretty next level, isn't it?
I was one of the big investments I made in my own like home studio stuff.
Yeah.
Just because I thought like, okay, that's a real important thing is to get a really great mic.
If you have that, if you can get that dialed in, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. I've been trying to. Do you do this? You ever do this thing where you stockpile and then you purge, but then you just stockpile again?
Yeah.
Like with anything. But
right.
I do that with gear too much, and then I had this experience where there was a guy who's an online retailer, but like kind of a boutique-y sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And he was being real friendly and talking back and forth about like helping me with stuff. And he wrote me back an email at one point. It just said, dude, just make the record. Like, you have everything you need.
Yeah.
You know, I have this weird relationship with gear.
Yeah.
You know, because it can be part of your inspiration, but it can also
be a distraction.
Totally a distraction.
Yeah. If you obsess and you think, I can't do it.
Right. If I don't have the 65 J45, right, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
How am I going to, and then you see somebody playing with like a beater.
Right. Well, it's
great.
it's a way of your brain fucking with you and tricking you into like procrastination.
100%.
You know, because it's like when you first go into singer-songwriterdom and you're doing home recording, you're so hungry, you have so much to say that it's gonna pour out of you, and
doesn't matter,
and you're just kind of like, I don't give a fuck, like what I'm doing is genius, this, that, and the other.
I definitely thought that,
and then as you go on, there's just you sort of, as opposed to developing, like in some ways you develop better ways and like just more efficient things, and you know what you're doing more, but also there's more that gets in your way.
Well, there's more. Yes, I agree. I think it's you find the things that you think you can control, because you and I can't control how our art is received. Right. And that I have trouble accepting that. Yeah. Because I want to like grab people by the shoulders and shake and be like, this thing right here, it's good for what you're going through. This would be like, but that's not up to me at all. So then I'm like, okay, but I can control my band, or I can control like what the stage looks like but then, like you said, it's their distractions, and you get away from actually making art, which is kind of the point, I think. Yeah.
And art, like rock and roll, is all about not giving a fuck. Right. In a way. Like, you have to give yourself permission to suck.
Yes.
Because if it's got to be genius, then that's you're stuck.
Yeah. Did you ever set out to make you were like, okay, this song's gonna be a masterpiece? I've actually done that before.
Yeah. Well, this album's gonna be a masterpiece.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's never gonna be good enough.
Right.
When you put that kind of, I don't know. It's weird. Like, when I try harder, it gets worse.
It gets worse.
I've heard you say that before in interviews.
Yeah.
Similar things. Like, if your motivation and intention is like, one of your albums was, I forget which one, but you were kind of disappointed in how it fared. Sure. Because you thought it was going to be the commercial breakthrough. Which album was that?
Lions. Yeah, man, I didn't even doubt it.
And, and you still are kind of confused as to why it didn't perform better, but maybe something to do with the motivation behind it.
Yeah, maybe. And then you go down literally a black hole of trying to figure out the why to all of it, and it could be a myriad of reasons, all of which again are 99.6% out of my control. So that's to me, the universe is really good if you allow it at kind of punching you in the face really hard, and making you realize what is actually reality and what you can control and what your purpose is.
Wait, say that again.
If you allow the universe to it hit you in the face to send messages and stuff. I'm not trying to sound too esoteric, but I actually believe that like reality it's right there in front of you, you know. And the reality, if I look back at that record specifically, was I wasn't necessarily in the place that I should have been, and my intentions weren't what they should have been going into it.
Right.
And that's a great lesson to learn.
Yeah. Well, what were your intent? What? Like, because the Beatles would write songs saying, "Oh, well, let's write a swimming pool." Like,
100%.
So,
Right.
so there's those. They had commercial intentions, and the you know the music world is full of people with ambitious intentions that actually did make really successful art.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, the rain falls on the just and the unjust alike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so even
Yeah.
like if you're doing something like that, it could
Yeah.
still be amazing, or it could not be amazing.
Right.
I mean, that's you know, I think about people like Eva Cassidy or Nick Drake or you know, people that you look at and you're like how did Eva Cassidy not become an absolute superstar even though her life was so short? Like her talent was unthinkably high, but I don't know, it just didn't happen.
Right.
And maybe you can't explain that, you know. So I had to take a step back from all that stuff and realize that in my mind, I think I can chart out how this all goes. And that's so dumb and such a waste of time and spirit.
Right.
I don't know how it's going to go.
Right.
And why should I even care how it's going to go? That's then I'm not doing my job anymore, right?
That's like a zen place to arrive at.
Yeah, I'm not there. I don't know if I ever will be there, but yeah, I mean, I don't, well, we can go off on a tangent on spirituality, but you know.
No, let's do that, but let's also say who you are.
Oh, yeah.
You're
that's
William Fitzsimmons.
I'm William Fitzsimmons.
Yeah,
William.
fantastic. Amazing singer-songwriter.
Yes.
Thank you for doing this.
That means a lot coming from you. That's for damn sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that means a lot.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah. Man, I've been trying to copy your stuff for years.
Come
you
on,
know?
dude. Man, your stuff is great. I honestly,
Thanks, Justin.
it's beautiful. Your sense of melody is infectious. I mean, you can listen to one of your songs once, and it'll stay.
Thanks,
I mean, it's
man.
like that melodic gift. Where do you think that comes from?
Mom and dad, 100%.
Okay.
Both musicians, not ever professionally, never paid a dime for it, but just obsessed with music. And it was that, you know, wasn't quite Sound of Music or anything. You know, we didn't march around in the costumes singing song stuff, but yeah, it was such an awesome musical home. I have told this story before, but it says a lot about why my brother is a musician as well, and my dad actually built a pipe organ in our house when my mom and dad were still together. And
I mean, who does that?
No one.
Remember,
It's a bad.
Chadwick Stokes' father built a harpsichord.
A harpsichord, yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
rad, man.
So that's on a similar level.
Yeah, that's nutty
Yeah,
as well.
that's
They're
nutty
both
too.
nutty, but like
Yeah.
our neighbors, they called the cops all the time, man, because the pipe organs are. There's no
Loud.
master volume on
Right.
it. You can't like turn it down that
Yeah,
much. You know,
yeah.
it's either on and everyone hates you, or so that was. It was all around. It was immersive, you know, and I don't know. It's cliche to say like I was destined to become a musician, but that was a thing that was right in my face and right in my brother's face, and why not? It was awesome. We loved it, man. You know. And
they're famously both blind. Your parents.
They are blind, and that's connected in so much as this is a blanket statement. It's not necessarily totally true, but when you have somebody in the disability community, there are going to be certain things that they might gravitate towards because of other things that they can't really experience. My mom and dad, we didn't go to the movies. We didn't have like artwork hanging in the house. Visual stuff didn't matter. It just because they couldn't see. You know, my brother and I could, but that was just normal. You live like your parents do.
Would they ask you like, "Hey, what's this look like?" Would they ask you to describe shit?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for cure. My mom had to get, cause I'm colorblind, so but she had this thing that it could read the color. It was how she would match her like clothes in the morning. It would read the color by like the frequency or something, and it would make a pitch.
That's wild.
And she could tell what it by the pitch. She could tell what color family it was in.
Harmonized,
you know, yeah. But I'm like this 6-year-old colorblind kid, so I'm like, I think it's blue.
Right. So you don't see any color. So
no, I see color. It's just, my differentiation is poor between certain types of color, which is ironic. You know, that my daughter always says it should be called color mixed, and not colorblind. She says colorblind doesn't make sense.
So yeah, I was listening to your pace session too, and I think a recent one. It was really good. It was you and the keyboard player.
Yeah.
It was really fucking. You aced that one.
Thanks.
It was really good. But the interviewer there asked you or equated your sensitivity with dynamics.
Right.
To growing up in the household you grew up in, just because there's so much sound sensitivity.
Yeah.
And that is true about your work. You are very there's so much sensitivity to it.
Yeah.
Do you think that empathy comes from your environment?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question.
Well, he alluded to. I'm kind of ripping.
Yeah, but
off
you
the
perfected
pace.
it.
Okay, good, thanks, dude.
You perfected.
I'm stealing the pace, guys.
You were the 3M.
Okay.
Of that question.
Yeah, okay. We co-wrote the question. All right, it's a co-write at this point.
Credit.
I got credit.
You're good, man.
Yeah.
You're good now. Yeah, I think it would come down to little things though that weren't even related to music so much as I would sometimes try to sneak. It sounds terrible, but sneak by my mom or something like that, or
It doesn't sound that terrible.
Well,
dude.
I mean, little
teenage trying to fucking
stuff.
sneak past a mom. That's about as normal as apple
I'm supposed
pie,
to be
dude.
home at 8. I get home at 10.
But I see what you're saying, because you're kind of using the disability.
Well, that was the part. Yeah,
that's the part where it's sketchy.
It's not fair. It's not a fair fight.
Not fair
but
fight.
here's the thing, though, man. Never once
could you?
Never once. She can tell. It's not a superpower, but she knows the sound of my footsteps. You know, because for her it's survival.
Yeah.
It's like if she doesn't hear the car coming around the corner,
right?
You know, even with the guide dog. I mean, you know, it's a dangerous world to not be able to see.
Yeah.
So that I think I'd learned to appreciate the power that sound can, or the absence of it.
Yeah.
You know, can have, and it's a powerful thing. I had a conversation with somebody last night about music, and that I still really am, and you know doing this for a long time, that you can get desensitized to certain elements of it. You know, you start to get into a rhythm of okay, this is what this chord would feel like, and this is what this microphone would sound like. And there's an element to the efficiency which is really beautiful.
Right.
You know, as a painter, you know, you would know what color mixes are going to emotions are going to come out when you do that. So that's good. It's good to have efficiency, but that can also deaden the wonderment. You know, Anthony DeMello, he's one of my favorite writers. He was a Jesuit priest. He talks about when a child, a very small child, looks at a tree, they don't look at it real quick and think, oh, it's just a tree. They look at it and they're like, what is this giant thing, monstrous spider look like? It's crazy to them. And I want to try to foster keeping that about not just music but life in general, because how sad is that when you start to lose the depth, you know, the figure ground perspective of life, and everything is just
So how do you do that?
Watch my kids a lot. That's I watch my kids. I try to base myself in reality, stuff that I've never done before. I mean, I've been watching my kids. I haven't been ignoring them, but to actually legitimately look at how they're living life and how, you know, some stuff they take so seriously, and you're like, why are you taking that so seriously? But then you look at it and you're like, oh man, because that's actually really important. It seems so stupid to me. You're upset that I gave you the wrong snack at lunch. And in my mind, I'm like, girl, I'm busy.
What difference does it make?
I can't
take this snack.
I didn't know you needed the cheddar cheese goldfish.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I didn't know. But to my daughter, and I don't want to blow it into something too big, but it said something about was daddy thinking about me when he was packing that snack. Was he noticing me as a person, or was I just a thing to check off in that day?
How old is she?
5 and 7. 5. My 7-year-old would have just eaten what she would have been like, whatever. My 5-year-old's like, I ain't eating that.
More sensitive.
No, and she told the teacher about it too.
Right.
I gotta agree with you on the kids just for a second, because when I have a 9-year-old now, but as she's growing older, the level of innocence, like you realize, okay, that's another part of innocence lost. She starts seeing things differently, and then you just hope that it just stays,
that something remains of that.
But you see it slowly fading.
And it does. You see the darkening of the eyes as we get older. I mean that figuratively and literally, and I can't afford to let that happen. Like life is so ridiculous and silly, but it's also really precious. And I would like to find a way to keep my eyes bright if possible.
Yeah. Well, the darkening of the eyes, I think, is a lock for all of us. It's about having the tools to get the light back.
And what are those tools? Like you were asking, how do you foster how do you foster
I think you just hit my funny bone though, because it was like
I nailed it. Yeah, that was amazing.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Interview's over.
Yeah,
guys.
no, I think I mean, for me, it's been about like I went through like a kind of dark night of the soul thing four something years ago, and got super into athletics and meditation and yoga and boxing and all that kind of stuff, and that did a fair bit to bring the light back.
Okay,
because it went dark.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
I know.
I feel you. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I know I know you're very open about a lot of what you go through, and your music is very open too. And you're.
What do you think did that? What was it specifically that there was a physical connection that was missing that unlocked something in you? Or was there a spiritual component?
It was all of it. It was like, I think, we have these moments, these extreme moments where like, you have to kind of rebuild from scratch, or like all your bullshit doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore. And it's all been called out by others or by yourself. And it's done.
Dude, the wall, it tumbles down. And
then for me personally, I was just in a state of near like pretty isolated. And so it was just like I had to start running. I had to do like that was
interesting.
Or I was going to just go all the way down, and I wasn't and I love life too much to just like fold.
Check out. Yeah.
It. I don't want to. I'm not a nihilist. Turns
out. Right.
Even though I like try to pretend to be sometimes.
Well, was that period? And this is a loaded question, but was that period necessary? Was it good that you went through that dark period?
I guess. I would imagine so. But I don't know. Like. Yeah. I mean. I guess you can't live a perfect life.
Oh God,
no. I don't think that exists. I mean, we're here learning and fucking up and trying to rebuild and redeem. I mean, I feel like making art, making music is an act of like alchemy for redemption.
Good, well said. It's redemptive.
It's redemptive.
You're taking imperfect things.
You're taking fucked up things and
trying to make something beautiful.
To make something.
I love it. Yeah. That's what we're doing. We're not taking really great stuff and making it better. It's not. It's not we're not polishing.
Yeah.
We're not polishers. We're like I think the idea at its best, we go into the building after it burned and then find some shit and try to put it together again.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at. It's different for everybody, obviously, but that's the way I look at it. I like. You can't, DeMello, a lot of authors talk about this. You can't. Pain is, it really is a gift. I'll put that on a postcard and sell it. But it's true. It really is. Like when I'm doing great, I'm not actually learning anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. I love it, man. When my kids are healthy, when I'm healthy, when I had a great show or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't learned anything in that. I haven't grown spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
but man, like the last 2 years going through my second divorce and a lot of, just life stuff that's happened, man, I've been learning because I've been diving into the reality of it. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't trade that. That's why I asked that question, because it would have been nice if I didn't have to go through all of it, I was kind of like, okay, universe, I already did like the divorce thing. I'm totally cool on that. I got that lesson. Mm-hmm. We can move on. Let's get into something new. But nope.
They're like,
still need the lesson.
You need a refresher.
I needed a refresher course.
Well, being humbled, like, from that space. Well, I mean, like, there's that whole biblical thing, like, I don't know the Bible or whatever, but like, blessed are the fucked up. That's paraphrasing.
Blessed are those who suffer,
because they have to then, I know for me, if I get really afraid and really alone and scared, I already said that, afraid, but like that is when I'll more likely turn to prayer in a real way. Sure. So I feel like, and that does kind of center you to something that feels eternal. Yes. Rather than just something that's fleeting.
Yes. Yeah, I agree wholeheartly. I would comment on that, but I couldn't say it better than you just did. Yeah.
Yeah, well, are you a fan of like John Lennon's music, like the Plastic Ono band specifically? I'm thinking about.
It's funny. I literally was just listening to Instant Karma again, and I've had a really tumultuous relationship with Lennon. Uh-huh. I'm going to be a little bit embarrassed to say this, but I was a Paul guy.
Oh, right.
For a long time, and
Paul Stanley.
Paul Stanley. Well, and look, McCartney's a genius. There's no getting around that either. But like, I always liked the lightness of what Paul did, and then the older I got,
melody.
Yeah, the melody. It felt, when I'm 64, man, it feels so good, Meanwhile, Lennon's calling it, his grandma shit, it's like grandma tunes and stuff.
Right.
But there was an introspection and a darkness that both George and John had that I didn't like, and I still don't know exactly why I didn't like it.
That's so interesting, because the reason I asked about Lennon is because of your background as a therapist, right, and also the fact that you explore highly personal terrain,
right?
And I can't. And
that's what John was.
And John was like the guy that did that harder than almost anybody in terms of like Mother and all that stuff. Dude. So that's why I brought that up.
Yes. I've grown to. I always respected him.
Right.
I don't want that to be misconstrued. Like it always broke my heart that he didn't like his voice.
Right. Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he didn't. That's why they, the
double track.
They started to do the double tracking stuff. Right. To kind of, he wanted something to kind of, which is so dumb. No offense to his legacy, but he had such an amazing voice.
Well, it's one of the best rock and roll voices
ever
of all time.
And he wasn't comfortable in it.
That's funny.
But there was a bravery in his steadfastness that I've grown to appreciate more and more. And it's not disparaging Paul, but I like that he was willing to say difficult things. Even in interviews, he would go on the Dick Cavett show, and he was Charles Barkley, man. Like, he didn't care if he was offending you. He wasn't doing it on purpose, I don't think, but there was a boldness to him, just living life. I liked that.
You do that, though. You're very open in interview situations. And
yeah. Sometimes I get some
pushback.
But that's okay too. That's like, if you're gonna, what's that line from the Kings of Convenience? The loneliest people are the ones that always speak the truth. And far be it from, I'm not standing here calling myself a truth teller, but I put a value on honesty in music that I think is neat and it's necessary. I know you do that as well, and I think it affects people that are willing to be open to that. I'd rather turn off some people and really, really connect with other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the middle's lame.
Right.
And maybe that's a a rationalization because I'm not terribly successful, but the middle.
Do you think that? You don't think you're terribly successful?
I mean, that's a moving target, obviously. Like I'm living my dream life. I was reminded recently by my first wife and I are still friends, and we'll text sometimes, and just life stuff, going through different stuff with kids and everything. And I was saying that I was struggling, and she wrote back something like, she said like, okay, 1, you're dating someone that you really care about and that cares about you. 2, you're playing music. 3, you have amazing kids. And she wasn't doing it to be like, you need to count your blessings. It didn't feel like finger pointing. It was this
reminding you some gratitude points.
Yes. That's exactly what it was. And I read it, and I kind of stared at the text for like a minute, and I was like, crap, that's reality. Mm-hmm. That's reality. Maybe I'm not, at a place personally or financially or spiritually or career that I would most want to be in my wildest dreams. But when I step back and I look at reality, it's actually all there.
Yeah, well, also you got to be careful, like, cause like I've said similar things, like, oh, I'm not, similar vibes,
Sure.
Like we're like, well, yeah, I'm not as successful as and then people call me out too, like, no, you actually are successful,
right?
And it's like you have to like careful of the words you use, because you speak things into reality. So if you say stuff like, I'm not successful, the universe is listening.
Totally.
And we'll keep manifesting that over
100%.
and over again.
Give you another 100%. Refresher.
Yeah.
Be careful.
That's That's what, God, I don't need any more.
Right. Yeah.
But you're right.
I'm good.
Yeah. But you're totally right. And that's it's good to have those things. You mentioned the word humility, earlier, and one of my best friends that I collaborate with a lot. He's very deeply, I think this would be okay for me to say, he's very deeply into the program. He's very deep into AA. And that's been a large, even though I'm not in the program, just sort of him being kind of a mentor as well as a friend, that a lot of that's rubbed off on me. And the humility aspect of that has been really, really helpful. I think artists, they tend to, and tell me if you're like this, but we go from 2 really different points. We go from like crippling insecurity to like unbridled ego,
Yeah.
And that's a really not fun ride at the park.
No, it sucks.
I don't like that ride anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it, but it's hard to get off.
Yeah, well, it's hard because if you're making stuff, you're putting stuff into a field where critiques happen and your own, and so
you have to believe in it.
You have to believe in it, and
right.
then also, but you're surrounded by it, like. I mean, painting is like the biggest torture with that, because it's like you just like stare at it and then certain aspects bug you, and then but if you go in, you could fuck it up. Like at least with music,
right?
You can overdub and fuck around, and you can always go revert to save.
Painting's still analog, man.
Painting is
that's analog,
like,
bro.
It's forever.
Yeah, you're on the tape machine with painting.
Yeah, exactly. I heard you talk about that when you made the record on tape. After the
I went back to digital, man.
After you, you did? Yeah.
No, we did. No, that's not totally true. We still do. We'll do elements of it where we can. To me, it depends on the project.
Yeah.
Do you record live ever? Like, do you ever? Will you do like full band, like full record kind of stuff?
I've done that.
Man, forget that stuff, man. I can't do that.
You don't like it?
No, I love it.
Yeah.
But I can't. I'm in my head the whole time.
Oh, really?
It's too honest.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
You like the studio?
I like the ability to step back and I don't know, but then live performance is also that's intoxicating too in its own right, isn't it? Mm-hmm. To where the risk is high. Like, dude, if I mess this up, it's messed up.
Yeah.
That's what everybody in this room paid for, and I messed it up. And maybe that's fine, but I find both enjoyable, but the studio to me there's so many buffers and so many undo buttons and overdubs, like you said, and things like that. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that makes me kind of chicken shit.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Dude, nah, if you're expressing yourself and putting yourself out there, you're hardly chicken shit. You know,
That's a good point.
I mean, you're doing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. But you want to challenge yourself too. You know, what was the thing with OK Computer that Tom he insisted before they went in? I think it was with this record that everybody learn a new instrument. And that when I heard that, I like flipped out. And I think that was like, okay, I'm going to learn the mandolin or something stupid. You know, it was like, I'm going to do the same thing. And I just gave it up after 2 days. But that idea of making yourself a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When you're trying to create, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
You know, and it's I don't know. I think that's helpful too.
Well, maybe it helps get you back into the beginner's mind.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it, man.
I was thinking about that album, like, and not to bring up a sore subject, but that album that you threw away.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Which one?
This was the first edition of Mission Bell, the one that
the recent one that just came out.
The one that just came out,
2018.
That's correct.
That was my question. Actually, was it because you threw the original version away?
Yep.
But did you keep the same songs, or did you rewrite all songs?
Most of the songs ended up on the final record that had a pretty considerable amount of rewriting to kind of update circumstances, and all of them sounded ridiculously different. Like the producer, he actually didn't listen to them, and that willfully, like he was like, no, we can't, like that. This is two separate things. We're not honing this original. He's like this, you know, fruit of the poison tree idea. You know, this one is done. It is whatever it is. We have to do something new, you know, and emotionally too. He was looking at it, I think, from that, like, you know, the producer as mentor position too. Like, this will not be healthy for you if we go back in and play parts that were played by the guy that slept with your wife.
Right.
That's not a good play, man. You know.
Can you give the listener some context on the backstory?
Yeah, I feel like that comment probably necessitated some context.
Yeah.
I mean, just because.
No, for sure.
They recorded a full album.
It's a fantastic story too.
Right.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you don't mind.
I really don't. No, I really don't, man. Because you know why? Because it's real life.
Yeah.
And like, why? I went through it. It happened. Like, let's talk about it. It can be a thing that we can all learn something from. I don't know. Yeah, guy that was in my band. He was kind of the musical director, but mostly was playing the drums. We had been touring and recording together for like 5 years or so. I was going to make this record, the one that became Mission Bell, and had built a home studio with a buddy of mine in my house. Obviously, that was awesome. We were like ready to go, and he came out. We were going to do like 2 separate, kind of 3-week sessions, and anyway, long story short, that entire time, basically, he and my wife were having a relationship, you know, in my house.
While you were there?
Oh yeah, I was there.
That's crazy.
It was bold. You have to give a little credit for the not giving any. That is a baller move. It's so pathetic, but
yeah,
it's kind of a baller move in a way. You know
well,
what I mean?
on a certain level.
On a certain,
the
really
devil
shitty,
was laughing.
The devil was laughing.
The devil was
high
high-fiving him. You know,
the devil was laughing, man.
And
you know what's funny, man? My dog was like
growling at him.
He was like
he
knew something. Isn't that interesting?
Well, yeah. What do you think of the fact that, like, you know, because like the internet, we're all connected, but I like this idea that, like, you know, if we didn't even have these devices and stuff like that, maybe we would have developed psychic abilities now where we would be like all connected in a psychic kind of way.
Probably more, yeah.
More so, because I think on some level everybody knows everything. You know, like, and if you're in a situation like that, was there when you look back at it? No, there was no part of you was like, I kind of knew, or
it's an impossible question to answer just because of hindsight now.
Right.
And that question haunted me for a while. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
You know, because then it was almost a question of culpability. In my mind, it was like, okay, maybe I could have done something, which in retrospect is silly. That was two consenting grown-ups that were deciding to behave in a certain way. That's, I can't, you know, I mean, I could have beat the shit out of the guy or something, but, you know, I couldn't, the bigger picture of what was happening in my marriage, for example, that really had nothing to do with that. So to know whether or not I was aware of what was happening to me became less important. I don't think I did, and that must sound really difficult to believe because it was literally in the house. But I truthfully don't think I knew, and that probably says a lot about the state of the marriage at that point too. I think it was pretty dead. Yep.
Yeah, usually like that's maybe kind of the final straw or something.
Yeah, there were elements of like, oh, this one's done.
When you did you end up? How did you find out?
And I don't want to vilify, so I want to be careful about how I speak about the parties involved. But to her credit, my wife actually told me.
Right.
She came clean. She did it kind of slow and painfully, and I think actually made me guess.
Sometimes abusive, and I don't know her, and I'm not calling her abusive, but I'm saying sometimes abusive people will like reveal those kind of painful things on purpose too.
Sure.
Like, and not in a way that is a nice.
No,
thing.
although I mean, what's the nice way of like?
No, I know. Well, the nice way is not doing it.
Not doing it. Yeah.
Or
she could have done an edible arrment with a card. That would have been nice. Yeah. Just to let you know.
Yeah.
I'm boning your drummer.
Right.
No, but I do give her credit for
coming
clean. That I do have to give some respect to that. And you know the thing is, it's not. People do shitty stuff to each other. Yeah. And I don't want to come off as a hero. I mean, I was suicidal. I was voraciously angry. I was going to buy a plane ticket. I was going to buy a plane ticket to Los Angeles, and I was going to kill this guy. You know. But
he was in LA when you found out?
Yes, that's correct.
The album was done when you found out.
Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. No, but the minute he found out, he erased it off a USB.
Done.
Right. Done. But. Like
not even in rage either, by the way. It wasn't like I didn't light it on fire.
Don't a lot of people like aren't those files must exist elsewhere still? Or you don't know.
I'd be well. There was somebody's gonna hunt for it. There was some dissemination of it, you know, in between like team members, stuff like that. So it's possible that something is there. And the thing is, it wasn't about. It wasn't about like revenge or like burying this guy's work or something. It was.
You want to be reminded.
Yeah, that's it, Joseph. It was that simple. It was like, man, I can't look at this picture anymore. You know, this one hurts.
How is that different than singing about a personal, painful experience of a song that you wrote?
That's a good question.
That then you play live. How is that any difference? You know, when you have to relive it, Some people relive the song every time they sing it.
For sure.
So what, are you going to scrap every song that hurts you?
That's a really good question. See,
I would have put the album away, waited a couple years, and then brought it back out.
That's a good question. I think I get to a point where I'm able to externalize some of this stuff. That when I'm performing, it's about the 40-year-old woman that's giving me the sweetest look, and you can tell that she's connecting with what's happening. You know, that's when it becomes. I'm like, it's not really about.
It's not
my
about that
divorce anymore or something like that. It's literally just people feeling things together. You know, and, in group therapy they call it universality. It's this thing where I don't know your life as well as you do. No one can. And so, you know, on some plane, you and I are eternally disconnected, right? But there are ways that you and I connect. You and I have both been through loss, heartache, joy, so we can actually connect on those things, so that's the plane that I like to live on them with. It's not as much about the story.
Yeah, songs are like homes for emotions, and if it's a good home, it's a good structure. It can house the emotion of the day, even though it might have been the origin of it might have been, from an emotion.
Totally agree.
In the past,
and it can mean something different to you.
Yeah, of course, it changes.
It changed when a song from 15 years ago is not. It can't feel the same as it did. Yeah, and it changes. So it's a really good question, and it strikes me that I'm being a little bit hypocritical in a way, but
no, not really.
Maybe there is an element of. I think at the time it'd probably be fair to say there was an element of wanting to deny a part of it. There was an element of denial.
Why not just record the drum track, have somebody else come in and save those?
Because he produced it, dude.
It was
okay.
It was a full-on collaboration.
It was
okay.
Literally like.
That's why I needed the full picture. No, because I can't imagine destroying an album. It's still an album down the line. Who knows? 10 years from now, those songs could have meant something to somebody.
That's true.
Well, he
That's
got
very
him.
true.
He put him on Mission Bell, though. That's why I asked if it was the same songs.
Yeah, but even if there were things that were destroyed, I don't know. I think I'm advocating throwing out the baby with the bathwater sometimes.
Well,
sometimes it's a bad baby.
But I mean, there is something very liberating about that. Like, and it's not like you're the first person to do that.
Salinger walked in his backyard and burned a novel.
Yeah.
He had completed a novel after Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah.
He walked into his backyard and lit it on fire. No one will ever read that book.
Yeah.
Why did he do it?
I have no idea, but it's rock and roll as hell, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and a lot of times people will do that. They'll it'll just get overwhelming, and they'll just start again, and they'll make something in 3 days, and it'll be way better. Or it's not. Or not.
But I love the risk of that.
What about when you're like talking about, like, you're very open with this story, and have you is the drummer in question and the ex-wife, are they like mortified that this story is like promoted all over the place? I mean, even though you're careful about saying, hey, I'm not a saint,
sure,
and I'm not trying to vilify people, but
but it makes me look good to say that, doesn't it? I look awesome. I'm totally in he's like, dude, this guy is so woke.
Wow, this guy's woke, dude. He's not just...
Hey, if they're still together,
they can't get me, good, bro.
Yeah, it's like, let me,
But meanwhile, I'm just standing here like that. Total saint.
I'm on Team William in this one.
I should have made T-shirts, bro.
Team William.
Team William.
Yeah.
Hashtag Team William.
Hashtag woke. Hashtag Team William. That was and is and this as a writer.
Yeah.
You do have to be. It has to cross your mind if you're alive. It has to cross your mind of how will this affect people. There's certain people. I heard Sam Beam talk about kind of using pronouns instead of names.
Yeah.
You do things to depersonalize so that you're not necessarily hurting. But I think I might get this quote wrong. Was it Joan Didion that said? It might not have been, but the quote's amazing. If you didn't want me to write about it, you shouldn't have done it.
Acted better.
You should have behaved better. That's exactly. Yeah, that's it. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not suggesting you should feel like sort of any kind of way about telling the story, or that you shouldn't tell the story. I'm just kind of curious, like if you had any reaction from them and what that was.
I did.
Did the drummer guy try to like be like, "Hey, man, I'm so sorry," or was there like?
I like a year later, I got a pretty fast, immediate message that was one of the most laughable apologies I've ever read in my life.
Right.
I actually appreciated it because it was so funny.
What was
like this? It was basically like, sorry, bro, wrong place, wrong time.
Oh, wait, what?
That was essentially the thing. It was like, man, this just happened. I'm really sorry. It was sad. It was sad. And I think a year later, I got another message. And I'm not one to hold grudges. I actually really love the idea of living at peace with people. Yeah. I think that's beautiful if you can do it. Some people are douchebags and you can't, but
Right.
My wife, though, that was more precarious. She didn't love some elements of it. She didn't like that I had a platform to say these things, and she didn't have a platform to say them. And I struggled with that a lot, honestly. And I actually still don't know how I feel about it. There was a part of me that was like, you know what? Fuck you.
Right.
And then there was another part that was like, this is the mother of my children.
Yeah.
I talked to my mom about it a lot. Because my girls are going to know the story someday, probably, right?
Yeah, of course.
Kids grow up.
They're going to check this podcast out.
Shout
out adult your children.
That's once they finish watching unboxing toy videos on YouTube, yeah, man, I honestly, I don't have an end answer to that.
Yeah.
It remains a precarious thing, but I think I fell back on just wanting to tell the truth. And you know what, honestly, if that makes me look good, oops.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want me to say? I've done shitty stuff. I wrote about my own affair in my first marriage.
Right.
I wrote about that. I haven't been, putting
no
myself.
saint over there.
That's what I mean, and I haven't been portraying that. So, look, people are going to think whatever they want, anyways. Sometimes it shows people would literally like call out stuff about my ex, and I had to be like, I kind of thought it was funny at first, and I was like, oh man, this isn't right. It's not like this isn't heroes and villains.
Right.
I just want to talk about. Can't we just talk about life a little bit? And like sometimes people fuck up, sometimes they don't.
Do you ever research narcissistic personality disorder? Being that you have a background in
100%.
Yeah,
NPD, baby.
NPD. Because that's an area particularly of struggle for me, and feeling like and having situations have arisen within that realm that I have put myself into that place of like reclaiming my story and feeling like I needed to tell my side of things and expose people and this, that, and the other.
Sure.
To protect from smear campaign or this and that and the other thing.
Right.
But yeah, there is that weird dance of like, yeah, but I'm not a saint. And also like, and it does, it's a funny situation, but particularly with MPD.
Yeah.
If there's the idea that there's people that are covertly trying to dismantle other people.
Sure.
Like, where is the line of exposing that and then not putting yourself in like this place of I'm righteous? Because you know what I mean. It's a sloppy way of trying to word what my confusion around that particular issue, because I was making lots of videos about it too, and just like really kind of being almost an advocate of survivors of MPD abuse. And I still feel a calling towards that.
Yes.
However, I'm a little bit quieter about it because of that whole situation. Just because it's like, and the other thing is, once you get to a place where you're strong enough to not be victimized in such ways, and you're woke enough to see those dynamics playing out and setting your boundaries, but when you're if before you're woke in that way, you can be your life can be destroyed by those kind of games, and then but once you are aware, it becomes like easy to spot, and it stops being as spooky. But when you first wake up, it's like the darkest, scariest, craziest shit you've ever heard of. You're like, what the fuck? And your whole world was a lie, and these, and all this stuff. But and then after some years of recovery, it changes because it's not that superpower is taken away from them, and so therefore they're much more of a weaker entity, right? And so you almost just kind of like feel sorry for them more than anything, right? And
it becomes a piteous
it changes, but then I still want to like help like spread awareness to people that don't have awareness of it and don't have boundaries and could be potentially destroyed by those kind of human behavioral networks.
Personality disorders are this is axis 2 of the DSM.
Yeah,
these are given their own special classification. They're largely unchangeable.
Right.
I mean, this is one of the frustrating things. At some point, we'll probably find a way to deal with these, but
not really, because they think that it's a superior way of being.
Yes, and these are things that the latest, zeitgeist in therapy is the idea that these are coming from attachment problems. So we're literally going back to infancy, basically, and we're saying at some point in infancy, this person had. They did not develop a secure bond, a secure attachment with the caregiver, and that basically just took this is really dumbed down, but it took their personality and just went, psh,
right,
like that.
They create a false self, and then that false self needs constant fuel, and that fuel is the agitation of others.
And depending on which one, so you have narcissistic personality disorder, you have obsessive compulsive personality disorder, you have schizoid personality disorder, borderline personality disorder.
Yeah, but MPD is the one where it's covertly trying to fuck up another human being, right? Like,
well, it's
where the other ones aren't dark like that.
They can. I mean, it depends how it's coming out. I mean, like borderline, having a borderline in your life is it'll take 20 years off your life if you're with that person for some amount of time. And narcissistic will do the same thing. And I don't mean to, again, these are human beings. I'm not trying to, neither are you, vilify the person. It's the disease itself that is so fundamentally awful.
Well, it's not a disease though. It's a disorder. A disease would be like a mental disease would mean but a personality disorder is the person's fully aware that what they're doing is wrong. Whereas a mental illness would be like they don't know it's wrong.
Yes.
Sounds like a combination of both.
Well, it's also vague and weird and crazy. And
there's
always plausible deniability in all of it.
For sure. Oh, I was labeled. My ex at one point was labeling me as a borderline. And I had to talk to my therapist about that. And of course, she was like, "What do you think?"
But somebody who's being narcissistically abused will act like a borderline.
For sure.
From the narcissistic abuse.
For sure.
And also then said narcissist will then label them borderline
for sure,
because that's also part of the abuse. And then it's about dismantling the person's self-esteem.
Utter control, utter manipulation. I mean, you turn the person into a marionette.
Yeah.
Which must feel nice on the other side of it.
What do you mean must feel nice on the other side of it?
Well, I mean, control is
controlling.
Is a intoxicating drug.
Not for me, man. I don't want to control anybody. And by the way, not a saint at all. Period. But I don't want to control other people. I don't have that. I don't, because I'm too fucking busy. I want love, and I want I want mutuality. And I want an empowered.
But that's scary.
Not to me, it's not. But maybe I'm in denial. I'll accept that I am.
It doesn't sound like denial.
But I got enough on my plate, dude. I'm sitting in a big gallery full of my paintings. And I got an album. And I'm doing a podcast with fucking genius William Fitzsimmons. I got this guy Ehud. I got an album to make. I got a tour coming up with Greg Dooley.
I don't have the time. I don't have the time.
I don't got time to try to fucking control some random person walking around. Dude, that's a whole project. And the whole thing, whole thing about getting in that project of controlling someone else is that person doesn't have a project from their authentic self, and so therefore they create these dramas and these other weird projects because I think every human being is creative regardless of whether they're an artist or not.
I agree. Yeah, but life is scary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm defending personality disorders for some dumb reason.
But
life is scary, and going back to what we said about control, having the ability to, because everything you described has an element of risk in it. Mm-hmm. Every single thing you said that was a project your soul is involved in right now.
It's all risky.
All of it is risky.
Yeah.
And if I can channel that risk into something that has less risk, which would be let's say, being involved in a codependent power dynamic relationship, that's awesome.
Yeah,
it is shitty as hell. I'm not saying it's actually good, but I'm saying that if I'm having, it fills that void, man. It fills it up. And I lived like that for most of my life.
Yeah.
And it was awful, but it was also amazing because I thought everything was great.
Right.
It was nothing was scary anymore.
Right.
It was like, no, I have everything and every person in their place.
Oh, so you were controlling.
I think it swung both ways. I think absolutely there were elements of me that were controlling, and it was done out of fear. I'm not making an excuse for it. It was wildly wrong. You know, one of my new songs, I literally have the line, "I was wrong to control you."
Right.
That's one of the lyrics. You know, and
how would you control
them? I think it was not. This will sound a little goop podcast maybe, but
great.
You know,
I think that one's popular, so let's get the goop on, dude.
That's right.
We got vagina candles here. No problem.
Let's get some of that goop audience up in here.
But I think I didn't have the ability to deal with my own emotions, and so I wouldn't let other people have their own emotions. I think it was.
How would you do that though?
By creating an atmosphere where it was not safe for other people to feel things.
And how would you do that?
By using anger, by using sarcasm.
If somebody said like, "Hey, I feel bad about something," you'd be like, "Oh, you feel bad."
Yeah, right. I would rain on their parade. I would say, "Well, how about me? What I'm going through?" Or I would devalue.
Yeah.
You know what they're going through.
There's a word for that, asshole.
Yeah, and I was, and again, I have to own that, and I do want to be clear in the dynamic that I had, and we're on really good terms now. We're actually my second ex and I, like, we're we co-parent the kids.
Oh, really? So you guys got it back together in terms of being on peaceful vibes.
Yes, and I mean more than ever, actually.
That's nice.
And she's a good person, man. She really is.
Listen, people cheat. Yeah, it's not like I mean
they do.
They do. It's not like somebody's a demon because they do that. Like
no.
People do that. You know,
it's
like,
a thing.
It's a thing people do.
Yeah,
like,
it's a thing.
And it doesn't make you awful.
No,
I mean,
it doesn't.
You know,
no, it doesn't.
But
it's not good.
It's not great. Yeah,
but it is a thing.
Right.
It's a thing. It's a behavior.
Yeah. And hearing you say that too, then I'm like, I instantly just think, okay, I'm probably just like unconscious about the way I do that. But yeah, like.
Oh no, I don't know that that's the case. Okay. I think I think growing up the way I did, I was very scared a lot of the time. Because it was knowing actively that I have two, and I love my mom and dad dearly, and they were amazing parents in a lot of ways. They really, really were, and they're two of my best friends. Growing up in a house with disabled parents, you realize really early on that if a bad guy comes into the house, you're fucked.
Right.
And I felt that real early.
Wow.
And that.
How old?
4.
Right.
Earliest memories.
Yeah.
Were me army crawling down the stairs with a butter knife that I took from the kitchen at night because I thought I heard a sound, and I had to go. What's my mom gonna do?
Right.
She can't see. If there's somebody in the house that broke in.
And what's a 4-year-old with a butter knife gonna do?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're telling me. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, I need to watch more like, I need to watch Karate Kid again and get that crane maneuver going or something. But
maybe that's the origin of your need to control.
100%. It was out of the fear, and it's as simple as that. Sometimes it is a one-to-one thing. Not to get too Freudian, but it is that simple. Sometimes it was that connection. I was terrified as a kid. And you know what? I was sick of being scared. So I'm not going to let people put me in an environment of fear. I'm going to put them where I need them to be, where they can be what I want them to be or need them to be. Dude, that's not life. I had no partnerships. I had, it was horrible. It was a horrible way to live.
So how are you like healing from that? Like, because that sounds somewhat personality disorder.
For sure.
And since we know personality disorders are like supposedly impossible
to
overcome,
right.
You seem to be like I hate to say woke again about it, but like, you know, like
we're gonna have to, you know, we're gonna have to put a hashtag.
We're gonna have to get a new word. But like, yeah, like how are you getting to that place of awareness and you know, honesty with it within yourself? Or is this just all a long? Is this a long con?
It's a super long con.
It's a long con.
I'm just trying to control you.
Are you
which isn't
Kaiser
working at all.
Sose? Yeah.
Oh, that'd be amazing, right?
Yeah.
That'd be so good.
So you were Kaiser Sose the whole time.
I'm just too dumb to pull that shit. I can't even play chess, man. It's like too many moves ahead. You know what it is, man? It's a daily practice of spirituality, and sometimes I'm really bad at it.
Yeah.
And it's just practicing reality.
Yeah.
That's reality
Practicing
acceptance.
reality.
It's reality
That's the name
acceptance.
of a good book or a song.
I mean, like Pema Chodron, she's a Buddhist monk.
I know who she is.
Yeah,
She's a meditator like motherfucker.
She's incredible.
She's amazing.
Man.
Yeah.
Her writing is like
I like her
so
YouTube
good.
clips.
Yeah, I mean, no, she's and DeMello is the same way. If you look up Anthony DeMello,
I'm gonna check him out.
Touched into that same sort of very simple, almost not militant, but like simplistic and rigid about how simple this stuff really is.
Right.
Like we make it so complicated, but it's really not. It's every day. It's confronting who you actually are. And that self-knowledge is going to allow you to make better choices.
And how do you do that? What's your daily practice with that?
It's for me. It's reading, it's journaling, and it's prayer. Those are my things. And I grew up in a very religious home. Yeah. And a part of my journey was actually deconstructing a lot of what that meant. Mm. And like the way I was raised, it was based on like very specific political and social beliefs. That was what religion was. It wasn't actually like believing that other people are beautiful and you should be kind to them. Mm-hmm. I don't know where that got lost, because I think that was supposed to be in there somewhere. Mm. But it was more about like hating certain people and believing certain things were bad, and that was like it. So a lot
Christian, like were you?
Yeah. Pretty hardcore. Pretty hardcore.
Are you still?
I would
pray to Jesus.
Is that not a cross on your neck, or is that an anchor?
It's an anchor.
Anchor cross.
It's an anchor. There's a cross hidden inside of it.
It makes a cross.
It makes a cross.
You can't get away from Jesus, dude.
But yes, I would. I call myself, and maybe it's splitting hairs, but I would call myself like a Christian deconstructivist. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like there's guys that DeMello I mentioned, Richard Rohr is another one. Guys that
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's a Catholic spiritualist, and guys that they were like, you know what, man, we got way off course at some point. Like, in no way are we living the way that our texts are saying that we should, whether or not you believe them. Mm-hmm. This is what they say. We're not doing it. Like, we're not doing it. So let's strip it back. Let's literally let's go back to the beginning. Let's see what we did wrong, and let's start over from there.
Yeah, and what are they just basically like?
Well, pretty simple tenets, I guess. That there does seem to be back to the basics. The universe seems to be connected in some way. People seem to be connected in some way. There does seem to be a grand design to it. Now we're going to get into some.
I mean, I believe that fully. I think it's absurd to think that this isn't what it is, which is obviously a grand design to me,
and to me as well. And
we're all good if you're an atheist, like whatever.
For
like,
sure,
we could go kick it, and I'd be like, we can be BFF.
Oh, I even want to, because I want to learn.
I'm not going to judge you, but it's not rational to think that something can come from nothing.
Right, and yet, another part of this too, like DeMello, one of his big things is not. He says belief is a bad idea. Like anytime you believe something, you're basically just putting a lid on something. You're putting a lid on your experience.
I like that.
And you're saying, which is so confusing because it's like, what? But you're a Jesuit priest.
The most important thing is you're supposed to believe Jesus is God.
Right.
And
that's it.
And if you believe that, you go to heaven, and if you don't, you go to hell.
That's it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Born,
what do you
born
think
of a
of
virgin.
Do you
think
that?
I don't think the Bible even makes it clear that there even is a hell.
Right.
I don't think that's even remotely. And even if there is, what about anything in the Old and the New Testament makes me believe that I should be playing an active role in the judgment of people in any way? The only thing I read in there, and I've been through it, and people can say I'm wrong, I'm an idiot or whatever. I'm saying heresy and things like that. But to me, it's very simple. It's that we're meant to fall into the will of God, whatever that is, and by my tradition and by the things that a lot of smarter people have told me, that means loving people. We can branch off a lot from there. Should you be baptized with sprinkles of water, or should you be dunked down? That doesn't seem to matter to me.
What do you think love is? Like, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I was just like actually thinking about love. Like, what is love? Like
freedom.
Yeah, but it's also a feeling towards another, or towards yourself. But it's like
different kinds.
Yeah, different kinds of love.
Storge, phileo, eros, and agape. Right, those are the 4 Greek words for love. And they all mean different things.
Yeah.
Eros is my favorite.
I know. I was gonna say that. I'm pretty high on eros right now.
That's like I kind of thought that was the only one that mattered, but no. But the agape to me is like what love actually is. It's the action of it, and to me, the word freedom is the one that comes back. And I'm stealing this again from smarter people, but love is recognizing the freedom in yourself and in other people. It's identical, and that's that. I can't really unpack that too much, but that is a really neat thing to chew on. I've spent months trying to figure out what that actually means, but it makes sense somehow to me that if I respect the freedom of another person, I'm actually loving them.
That's the opposite of trying to control them.
That's the exact opposite.
The exact opposite.
Yeah.
Do you think like the Jezebel spirit is working through people?
How do you mean?
Like the the evil spirits sometimes are working through people. The reason I brought that up is because it's like exactly the opposite. Trying to control. Okay, we can forgive it and we can like try to understand it. Okay, it was an unmet childhood need, and you're not bad, but but it is the exact opposite of that love you described.
Sure.
Therefore, the opposite. Therefore, it does have this evil energy. Do you believe in evil as well? I guess I'm getting around to do you believe in evil?
Yes, I believe in evil
operating through other people here on this plane.
I believe evil comes from people. I think. I mean. Look,
well, we need it because without that, you can't see the light.
That's true. Yeah, right. The shadow proves the sunshine.
Yeah,
right. I think that was a John Foreman, Switchfoot. I think that was one of his lyrics. I love that. I love that line. The shadow proves the sunshine. To me, I think it comes from inside. I think evil comes from inside. Any hurtful thing that I ever said, and I can only go by my own experience, I ever said to my second wife, I chose to say it. Whether or not I had been drinking or whether or not she said something really nasty before it, I chose to say it. There was no demon inside. I'm not saying that possession's not real. I have no idea. I don't know. Who am I?
I don't know either.
That's
why I'm asking.
I mean,
I'm asking for a friend.
That's right. Yeah. But see, to me, I have to take responsibility for what's in front of me, and those nasty, evil words that have come out of my mouth at different points in my life, as everyone has said things they regret. Those came from me. Period. I can't blame a devil under a rock or something like that. It's again not to say it's not an operational thing out there. Maybe that is a real thing, but I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know, and it's not that I don't care. I think that stuff is interesting, but there comes a point where I love watching like religious people. I love watching smoke come out of their ears sometimes. When the literal nature or lack thereof of the scriptures. This is something that even still today, there are Christian communities that would 100% call you a heretic if you said that everything in the Bible is not literal. That seems really silly to me. You know what I mean? Right. And again, I don't know, but also I don't care.
Right.
It's not my job to know. Like,
right.
Look at the birds, man. Look at the flowers. Like, you know, like my dog wasn't worrying about Charlie, my golden doodle, does not care about the impeachment trial right now. And I'm not saying we shouldn't care about it. It's an important thing. These are important things that are going on in the nation and to the world.
It's
you know.
done, by the way.
It's done. Exactly. Right. It's done. So, but like, he doesn't care. All he knows is that you just made a turkey sandwich. He wants that turkey sandwich real bad. You know, that's awesome. That's how I want to be. I want to be like Charlie.
Right.
You know, not that I don't want to ignore stuff.
What's your turkey sandwich? Music? What?
It probably changes. Most of the time, it's probably my kids. It's probably the kids are my turkey sandwich.
That'd be a good T-shirt. You know. What's your turkey sandwich?
What's your turkey sandwich?
Hashtag turkey sandwich.
Come up with this. We've had a lot of good merch ideas already, Joseph.
Yeah.
So that. Yeah. I just don't think it's supposed to be complicated. It's not supposed to feel like constipation. Spirituality is not supposed to be like just sitting on the toilet, just like forcing shit out of your butt.
Right.
It's not. I'm not saying it's supposed to
be liberating, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
What do you do? Like, do you have a morning routine? Do you do the morning pages when you wake up?
It depends on if it's my week with the kids. If it's my week with the kids, it
goes out the window.
It's like well, no, it just gets postponed until once I drop them off for school.
Right.
But I like, and I got this from my friend Adam Landry that I mentioned. He's my producer the last couple records. That he's a pretty big believer in knees on the floor pretty quick.
Oh, really?
And to him, it's like a survival thing. He's learned that about himself. That like
pray with knees on the floor.
That he's got to go quick into it, or else
show devotion.
Yes, however you want to put it, I guess. To recognize that he's not the center of the universe. You know, to like let the ego drop down just a little bit before we start interacting with other people. Coffee has to be there as well.
Oh, fuck yeah.
You know, but just taking a second and not getting lost in ego, because man, ego's where we get messed up.
Yeah.
Once the ego is like there, you're done, man.
Easing God out. That's what they say.
Yeah.
In the 12
right.
steps.
Yeah. That's what it is, and truly, that's what happens.
The ego is not your amigo.
Hashtag amigo.
Turkey sandwich was still better. But, you know.
Yeah. So you do that. You pray on your knees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a metaphor.
I'm gonna probably do that tomorrow morning. Actually.
Well, I think and again, I don't think it's a requirement at all. To me, it helps to put. It's like closing your eyes when you're listening to music or something. It's just, you're removing distraction. I guess it's as simple as that. And journaling too. That's as a writer, even I thought that was silly. Before my therapist kind of insisted on it. She was like, "You have to do this if you're going to kill yourself. Like, you have to journal."
Right.
And I was like, "All right, fine." And I really did. I thought it was dumb. I really did. I thought it was so stupid.
Why?
I felt like a teenager or something writing a diary. I felt like I felt like
what
I was
would you
too
write?
smart.
Just like, hey,
Dear
like
Dear William.
This happened today, like that basic, or would it just be free form?
All over the place. Very free form. A lot of times it was early on. It was like diatribes of anger.
Right.
Sometimes it was letters to other people or to God. But they started out pretty like, looked like serial killer kind of journal handbook kind of thing, where it was just like really like hard, intense writing, and like the Prozac wasn't really kicking in that hard yet.
Do you take that?
I do, yeah.
You do?
Yeah, for a long time. Yeah, that's a lifesaver for me, man. Yeah, I'm a pretty big believer in psychopharmacology if it's done well. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the journaling was. It does something. I don't know what it is. It's an externalization of what's happening inside. And when I do that, something actually does feel a little bit different. Sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes meditation is frustrating.
Often.
Because you're not there.
Well, even Pema Chodron, I mean, who's the expert.
Master.
You know, like one of her talks, she goes on, and I tell this to people who are scared to begin meditation. Like, oh, my mind's so busy. I'm like, Pema Chodron talks about, and I think I'm saying her name right. I don't know if I am.
I think you are. I think I might have said it wrong. Yeah.
I don't know, but
she wouldn't be offended.
Well, she would. Yeah, she would be zen about it. I'm quite sure. Yeah. No, but she even talks about how, like, you know, she's got a monkey mind.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And she's like, the high priestess of meditation.
Yep.
You know.
So if it's hard for her,
if or if that's an aspect still going on with her,
right,
then you cut yourself some slack. It's similar to making music and giving yourself the freedom to suck.
But that's even a part of it.
Yeah.
That's a part of the journey. That if you're not able to meditate, that's a part of the meditative process.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about my spirit right now, my mind, my heart, that's not maybe set right or in the right direction, and with the music too, in the same way. At this point I've gotten to the place where I know I'm going to write some really awful songs for a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
If I go back to writing, if I haven't been doing it for a while, they're going to be bad, And
really, all of them, or aren't some of the first? I find like the first couple, like sometimes can be really good, like they built up.
Oh, that's not been my experience.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's like, I don't know what it is, but they're almost childlike.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've forgotten words,
right,
or something, and the emotions are. I think for me, they get so like fundamental and rudimentary almost that there's nothing interesting or complicated. It's like it's just me like doing like 16th note like power chords and talking about how mad I am at my dad.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Back to the basics.
Yeah, we don't need that anymore, man. We don't need that anymore.
In terms of prayer, have you had any like experiences where like you've prayed and then specifically oddly been helped in certain aspects or certain ways, like where you've seen the power of prayer actually like work in real time?
That's a really good question. No.
Really? Because I find that frequently. Like if I lose something, I always pray to Saint Anthony.
Oh yeah, right,
and
right.
I always find it. But I mean,
I think
maybe I would have found it anyway. But like,
oh no, I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying that. I believe. I 100% believe in the power of it. I think for me, it's. I think the answer for me comes more in. Feelings, I guess, maybe. I wouldn't know a better way to say it. That I tend to be given peace, I think, about something that's happening. And so in that sense, they're always answered.
Yeah. Or if you ask for help, does help come?
Yeah, often not in the way that I want it to.
Never in the way, but still.
Yeah. But it's there. For me, prayer is usually more of an exercise of trying to let go of myself. A little bit.
Oh, okay. Dismantling the ego.
Yeah, and that's been the biggest journey. I mean, I've been with the same therapist for like 2.5 years, I think, and we've done a lot of work in that regard.
What, your ego?
Yeah.
Like what?
Like being. I think specifically being okay with who I actually am and being okay with who I'm not.
What does that even mean, though?
I tried to make that like really vague so you wouldn't be able to know, and then you ended up just asking a question about it afterwards. So it means stopping thinking that I'm a worthless piece of shit, or that I'm better than I actually am, because that thing that pendulum I was on was destroying me, and it was really hurting a lot of people around me too. Where I just wasn't able to really regulate my own emotions, and my wife bless her heart, she didn't always know who she was going to get when I would come back home from tour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say the artist's life in terms of all those things, like dealing with your ego, because, I mean, even just going on tour and, like, you know, like you're playing in front of a room full of people
that are clapping for you.
That paid to get there. they, you know, like your little, like, ideas and songs and stuff. I mean, that takes a certain kind of courage, which needs to be sort of like, what do you call it? Like, you know, emboldened by a pretty wild-sized ego to a certain degree, and even the artistic temperament, like, yes, you know. So it's like and then also just the craziness of like being on tour, going up and down and up and down, the adrenaline after the show, and then you're in a shitty motel room, nobody's there, and there's a buzzing in your ear, and it's like and you're wired because of just the big adrenaline rush, and then you got to get up at 7 a.m. and start driving. You know what I mean? It's like, it's such a crazy thing for an ego that's developing, that's already fragmented.
Yes. And I didn't ride that out well.
No, but nobody does. I mean, nobody does all
right?
I don't think anybody does like fully all the time. I think I think some people learn how to.
Yes,
I think a lot of people learn how to, but I think it's usually like a process that takes a good 10 years.
Well, maybe that's the process that's happening now. Maybe that's what this is. This
You're
is
growing
a part
up.
of that. Well, yeah. I mean, and you know, this is that there's definitely an emotional retardation that can, and I mean that in the terms of slowing down, that can an arrested developments, or that can happen emotionally to an artist in general, and maybe to a musician specifically, because we kind of get to be kids,
right,
a little bit, and it's good. There's a healthy part of that, but there's also a really unhealthy part where it just, honestly, man, it just enabled me to keep being kind of a dickhead, right. You know, to keep like not figuring out my own shit,
and then people around placating your ego enough to where,
I was important.
Yeah.
I'm doing important work.
Right.
Sorry, hang on, guys. I'm doing important work.
Right.
You know, I'm saving souls with my music right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm kidding, but also, wait a minute, art is important though, right?
Well, and when, I felt a lot more that kind of way when I was younger.
Right.
Right. But that, like, I now have to sort of like try to pump up into like, this matters enough to where I can even just fucking do it. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
you went the other side of
that.
It
goes the other extreme where you just like, you know, so it's weird. It is a balance.
It's right. And we're back to the pendulum thing now,
yeah.
You know, so I guess it's the daily dose of the humility, if possible, you know, having people around you that care about, not just people that like tear you down or something and like, you know, take you down a few rungs, but people that actually know you and they're willing to have boundaries with you. And, you know, my girlfriend that I've been with for a while now, she's amazing. She lives here in the city. She is not a fan of my music.
Really?
At all.
Really?
And I love that.
Yeah.
And that little element of somebody that's not just going to blow smoke up my ass.
Does she actively dislike it? Or
no, she's extremely supportive, but it's not her thing. Let me put it that way. Like, it's not the kind of music. Like,
but no, what is her thing?
Oh, she loves Billy Joel.
Okay, but what if she loved Elliott Smith? You feel me? Like something that was relatable to what you do, but like that would be a different vibe, right? Like if she's like, I don't like you, but I like Elliott Smith. I like Sam Beam, but I don't like you. Like, but if she likes something like I like Taylor Swift, I don't like you, then it's like less personal. You know what I mean? Like it's like because you just don't like this type of music. But what if it was
putting me in a very honest position right now, dude? It would hurt.
That would hurt.
It would hurt. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. It would hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Because Yeah, because I've been in relationships too where like that control thing too, like where somebody will be like super up on somebody who's very similar to your vibe.
No.
You know what I mean? And they're using that to kind of torment you.
Okay,
there's a difference between
was it
that,
done on purpose?
Well, who knows? But I'm just saying like. If there's a pattern, I look for patterns. If there's a pattern of it, then it usually feels purposeful.
Yeah.
Like if it's a one-off, like okay, fine, it's a one-off. I'll let it roll. If it's a two-off, I'll let it roll. But when it happens a third time, fourth time, I'm like, come on, player. Like what's going on? Like this is thought about, yo. You're doing this on purpose. Dude.
It's like they went to like your Spotify and specifically found your similar artists.
Yeah.
They don't even know who it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that cover that he did of your song, but I don't like your
That's
song.
right.
Right.
You should listen to this cover that somebody did. You know, man.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so dope.
But I mean, Billy Joel isn't a million miles away. I mean, he writes some good tunes.
Oh man, he's a million miles away.
He is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. He's actually like, he's talented. Where I'm like, I whisper into a mic a lot.
Oh,
and that's pretty cool. No, I'm kidding.
That's you being self-depreciating.
No, I'm actually amazing.
You're pretty damn amazing, man. I mean, you have a lot of people that feel that way about you.
I'm teasing, but I appreciate that people connect. It's a specific thing,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm like my girlfriend not liking it. I'm like, I get it, and I love it.
She doesn't like what, the open emotional vulnerability of it, or like the quietness of it, or
maybe all the above. I think in general it's no, because she is very in touch with her own emotions for sure. She's a dancer, and I think dancers in general have a really good like body, mind, soul connection.
What if you went to her dance show and was like, I wasn't that into what you were doing, but that girl that you're dancing with.
Oh my God, the leggy blonde.
The
next
leggy
to you.
blonde. Wow. Like just wow. But no, listen, I'm supportive. Not a big fan of what you're doing, but
yeah, no, she could like kick my ass. So I'm just not. As a personal survival thing, I'm just not going to say that.
No, of course not.
Yeah, I think it's probably just that it's on a different wavelength, and I love that. I had a friend that used to say that there's room for it.
Right.
Whenever like, it'd be like early on, it's always a fun thing of like indie singer-songwriters to like make fun of pop music. That's so much fun, right?
I don't do that. I love pop music.
Dude,
I've always loved pop music.
It's so good.
Yeah.
A lot of it. Not all of it. Some of it's.
I grew up on pop, like 96 FM in Akron, Ohio. Like,
dude.
Top Casey Kasem top 40, all that shit. Dude.
WDVE in Pittsburgh, man. Well, it's classic rock. We didn't have pop music in Pittsburgh.
You a Steelers fan?
Oh, I'm
a Browns fan.
Well, you're from Akron,
bro.
So yeah.
We don't even like each other.
Mistake by the lake.
Ouch.
No. Look, one day,
funny.
So do you guys still have a football team there? I'm so sorry,
no, dude. Listen, it's so easy to kick them. They're just like rough.
It got like. There actually was a point. I don't even hate the Browns anymore.
No. Well, they're America's team. They're like the Bad News Bears.
They kind of are. No, they kind of are. Now, let's not talk about. We don't talk about the Ravens or the Patriots, but oh man, I love football. I want to talk about football.
Yeah,
that's so bad.
Mean Joe Green.
Dude, Steelers
Terry
were
Bradshaw.
That
Lynn Swan.
That was my
Franco Harris.
I spilled the Pepsi on him in Eaton Park one day. Yeah, I totally did. I was really nervous. Yeah, I was trying to get his autograph, and I was like, Mr. Harris, do you mind if I, and I just knocked over his drink in his lap. What
about Brian Sipe, Dave Logan, Ozzie Newsome, Greg and Mike Pruitt? But they weren't related. That's Browns players.
You're going deep right now.
Yeah, well,
you're going real deep right now. Top. Who are your top 3 Browns players?
I like Brian Sipe. I mean,
for real?
Well, that was my hero when I was a kid.
Okay,
you know, so it's like
Testaverde, obviously.
And
his video on there.
I like Dave Logan a lot too.
You're going B-sides right now. These are
I'm hella B-sides.
These are the deep cut Browns.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is I Brian Sipe was a big hero of mine when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I mean, like, I used to, just dream about meeting him and all this other stuff. Like, it was a big hero. And
did you want to play football?
Yeah. And I played. I was a quarterback, or in the schoolyard. Not in.
You're
not
tall.
In leagues,
you got the long arm reach.
When we played around the neighborhood. Yeah. And I was working in L.A. at John Alesia's studio. You know John Alesia?
Yeah, I do know John.
Yeah, you guys should do something together sometime.
That'd be badass,
right? Yeah, and there was an assistant working there who then like later ended up writing a bunch of hit songs, but ended up being Brian Sipes' son. So I got to meet his son in the studio, and I was just like, "This is too fucking weird."
That's amazing.
When I found out he was Brian Sipes' son, I freaked out.
You nerded out big time.
I nerded out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. But
so
you didn't spill a Pepsi on him or anything.
No,
like that. I feel like an idiot.
No, that's better. What? No, that's killer. You had contact.
He wasn't chill about it either. Man, and I wanted to ask him about the catch too, the Immaculate Reception. I wanted to ask him about it.
What happened?
Oh, no, he was fine. He was just really annoyed. He was visibly annoyed with it.
Oh, really?
He was not like, please. I mean, he's a guy. He's allowed to like be. I spilled a drink on him.
How'd you do that? Like you were a kid and you tripped over your shoelace?
Oh, no, I was a teenager and I was just really nervous and I reached across his table, which was, why was I like in his personal space anyways? Mm-hmm. You know, I was just really excited to see him. The Immaculate Reception, man. You know, one of the greatest catches. Yeah. I think it hit the ground actually, but.
Right.
Anyways, I was just nervous, man.
You go to YouTube it.
If you go to it's one of the and there's no great camera angle of this guy. It was in the I think it was the Super Bowl itself, or it was a divisional championship game, but
it was one of those ones where he was like
it was
into
literally
the ground and into his hands at the same time.
Yes, exactly, and they called it a catch. Steelers won the game. There's actually there's a statue of Franco in the Pittsburgh airport. Mm-hmm. Like when I think there's one of Bradshaw too, you know, when you're like coming down the escalator, but it was a big part of growing up, man. That was like I think it's funny because when people sometimes I'll make like sports jokes at my shows and I have to remember that like,
people don't get
it's singer-songwriter music.
Right.
Maybe this is the wrong crowd.
Did you play?
I played sport. I was into basketball a lot more. Mm-hmm. That was my.
You're tall, huh? How
tall? Well, you're taller than me. I think I'm like 6'1", 6'2", something like that.
I'm a bit taller.
But no, I always loved athletics. And in Pittsburgh, it's as in Ohio too, man. As in like Akron, that area, it's important. Sports are important.
Yeah,
it's a big part of growing up a boy.
That's true.
Yeah, not that I'm just saying that's not right, but
Midwest.
Midwest, yeah,
Midwest thing. Do you go back there?
East. Yeah, my family's still in Pittsburgh. Less and less. We've lost some key members of the family, but my mom and dad both still live. My mom lives in Ambridge, which is right on the Ohio River.
Right.
And my dad lives in about an hour north of the city.
Yeah. And you wrote an album about their divorce, but you thought it might be about yours.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Was that the Crow? No, that was the one.
That was
following one.
Good Night was about their divorce, but it actually coincided with my first.
Right.
Dude, I have so many divorce records. It's awesome.
And The Sparrow and the Crow.
That was specifically about mine.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Then Mission Bell was about. It's a lot.
How old were you when your folks got divorced?
I was 12 when they separated, and 14 when it was a long drawn out.
Yikes! That's ugly, like right at the kind of the worst time, probably too.
There's not a great time, but that wasn't
a good time.
That was not a good time.
No,
and it was, yeah, man, it was pretty nutty. It took me a long time to, again, I don't want to sound like a sad sack or something, and like
too late.
Fuck. Damn, dude.
That was a great burn.
That was pretty good, dude.
I
gotta give it up to Ehud.
Yeah.
Shout out, Ehud.
Shout out to Ehud. Ball move, dude.
That train has left the stage.
To get up on he got up on the mic too.
I know.
Because when you want to make the point, you're like, that's right.
Loud voice.
That's right. Little
telling it like we call him telling it like it is, Ehud.
That's right. That needs to be like a segment. That happens.
Oh yeah, telling it like it is.
Telling it like it is.
Yeah. No, that's been his nickname forever. Like, it's like you want to get a good friend for your ego. It's like, what do you think of this song? He's like,
not your best.
It's all right.
Those are the favorite things.
I like it, but
Yeah, but that hook's not there, man. One of my favorite things that ever happened to me, I was opening up for this wonderful female singer-songwriter, and her husband was standing side stage when I came off. And it was in Doug Fir in Portland. Yeah. And I was feeling myself. I came off stage and I was like, damn, dude, you just crushed that
I
set.
know those type of sets when you're like, damn, what the fuck? Am I a genius?
Did anyone hear my voice that was coming through the thing?
Wait, hold on. I need a moment of silence just to reflect.
Everybody, come around and listen to how great I sound.
What the fuck?
And I kid you not, I fucking look at him. He goes, he's big, tall, surfer, Australian guy. Puts hand on my shoulder and he goes, "Not your best, man."
Right.
And that was
I know. I've had that kind of thing happen before too.
the best moment of my life.
The opposite of that happens though too, when you think
sure.
you've pooched it and people are like, "Oh, that was great,
That
man.
sounded good.
Yeah,
yeah.
And you're just like, "What?"
Honestly, at that point,
yeah,
it doesn't. I'm not saying it doesn't matter because everybody that's like if people come to your show. Most of the people that are coming to see you on tour, that's their Joseph Arthur show. Yeah. That one show.
Yeah.
So if you decide to dial it in Des Moines, that might just be one night for you and me. Also Des Moines. I mean, come on. But that's like their like special night. So I do try to remind myself of that. But on the flip side of it too, it's live music. It's art. Like we're creating. I don't know, maybe I might have diarrhea that night. Like maybe the experience that you're wanting is not what I'm able to provide for you in that moment. Yeah. I don't know. You can only just do your thing. Right. I really care about my shows. Like I want people to be moved emotionally.
That's clear, dude. That's clear with what you do.
Good. I hope so.
Well, fuck, dude, you're really good at it.
Really seriously, man. Thank you.
No, I'm not blowing smoke.
No, I don't think you do that ever.
You really are. I mean, and it's clear that you put a lot into it. And, and it pays off.
Yeah. But the flip side of the coin is I've said some things. I sometimes I try to like lighten up the mood a little bit because the show itself can be a little bit sad sometimes. So I'll lighten up the mood and I'm a youngest sibling, so like I love buttons, right? And I love finding buttons.
I love awkwardness on stage. Oh, it's so good. Leaning into awkwardness.
It's so good.
I love it.
But sometimes
it gets too awkward.
We go a little too far with it.
Yeah.
Like I love being the only guy in the room that's laughing, and sometimes that's not great as an entertainer.
Yeah.
To do that, but I kind of get off on it a little bit. It's like seeing how far you can go, And I never want to offend people, but I do sometimes. I say things that I shouldn't say. But I don't know. I almost think it's healthy. Isn't that kind of our job? Aren't we supposed to poke people with needles a little bit?
It depends on in what way you mean.
To wake them up.
Yeah.
I want people to wake me up.
What's an example of something you've said that you think was provocative or?
Oh God. I mean, I think so. Talking about the affair was one that, and I think a lot of times the people that get uncomfortable, offended, are the friend or the boyfriend or the girlfriend that gets brought along to the show. Right. It's not necessarily the fan because I think the fan
they already know
they're gonna at this point. I've been doing it for a long time. They're gonna have a good idea of what they're walking into, but not always. Right. Well, here's a good one. I had a guy. I had a black guy that was really nice and polite in how he wrote me a message, but he came to a show in California, and I did a cover of Sweet Home Alabama, and he wrote me and he said he thought it was really insensitive and inappropriate that I was playing a song that sort of glorified a part of Southern culture that was connected with racism. And that was one, and my gut reaction to when somebody calls me out for being offensive, my gut reaction is like, well, if they knew me, they would know that I have a good heart. That's like where I go. But I chewed on that one. And I wrote him back and I thanked him and I apologized for offending. And I thanked him for calling me out because he was speaking his truth. Now, whether or not.
What's the offensive line in that song? Do you know?
I'm
not that familiar with. I know, like,
sweet.
Southern man don't need something.
Well, so Neil Young. It was a response to Neil Young writing Southern Man.
Right.
I think and there was the criticism that Young was doing about the American South was basically based on race issues, as he should have been criticizing it. It was terrible, and Skinner, obviously. I mean, I saw Leonard Skinner when I was a teenager in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Ted Nugent opened for them, I believe. Man, that was a night. Didn't play Cat Scratch Fever. Kidding, he did maybe twice.
Beginning and end.
Right before Skinner played, I think it was right before they played Sweet Home. Their entire backdrop was a Confederate flag, and I looked around in the audience, and there was a bunch of dudes wearing Confederate Army uniforms, and I was like, "Oh my God, what's happening right now?" Right. And I think me playing the song was it was a joke, sort of. It's a song that everybody recognizes, and I'm doing this stupid like singer-songwriter thing where it's like slow and kind of emotional.
Sad, Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah, exactly. But what responsibility do I have in that situation? Am I glorifying something? Am I perpetuating something that is potentially harmful? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, your intention wasn't to do that, was it?
Does that, respectfully, does that matter?
I don't know. I don't know. That's above my pay grade, but
mine
like,
too. Yeah,
but
because does intention?
But I think intention matters. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know that Sweet Home Alabama is overtly racist. I think that would be the question. Right. There's aspects that you're talking about where they align themselves with the Confederate flag.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they're racist, because that was also like a celebration of the South to them. I mean, now I know that Confederate flag is racist and people can't use it. It's banned and all that.
Right.
But back then it wasn't that way, and I don't think that everybody necessarily celebrating that was necessarily thinking in terms of but again, I don't know. I'm not defending it one way or the other.
No, I understand. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I'm just throwing out that, like, I don't know that they were like, I don't think that they're a racist band. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's in their hearts or what's been, promoted, things that they've said. I honestly don't know either. I guess I want to respect the right of someone to be offended, but I also don't want to necessarily change my default to poke a little bit, if that makes sense. Right. It's good to, Dave Chappelle talks about this. We're like, it's going to be really dangerous if we can't talk about this stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like the deplatformings and all that stuff. I mean, the sort of, the kind of the brush up against freedom of speech that we've all been sort of feeling.
Yeah.
I think that's like, to me, a spooky proposition.
For sure. For sure.
So
yeah, I don't want offensive things said.
But I think like Dave Chappelle's his latest comedy special is a reaction to that. And,
yes.
And so
yes.
And I think there's something very liberating about that in this day and age.
For sure.
I mean, I don't know, but I'm like, I'm a white man, so it's hard for me to like really speak on it without.
We've probably had our say.
Without coming off like an asshole.
I know.
So, but at the same time, I'm a big fan of freedom of speech.
I am too. And that this is a conversation I've had with several people. My oldest daughter is biracial, and
when you responded to the guy that wrote you about Sweet Home Alabama, did you send him a picture of your daughter?
Well, but that's a good question. But would that even matter?
No, I was just making a stupid
that
joke.
Would have been amazing.
That would have
been the
like,
classic. No, that's like the kid when you were. He's he's like my best friend's black, so I'm not racist.
And here's a picture of me and my daughter, and like she's on your lap.
Right.
Anyway,
it to me like offensiveness is it's just a funny concept. The conversation I had was specifically about the N-word. And
with the guy?
No. Sorry. This was a conversation I had with a friend of mine that's black, and it's a fascinating topic. The racial epithets are horrendous, right? They're horrific. And specifically the conversation was, what role does hate speech play in a culture that does have freedom of speech? Like, what should you I think I was kind of advocating that there should be certain things, which there already are, by the way. Freedom of speech has always been limited, right? You can't incite a riot. I can't run into a movie theater and say fire, things like that. And that's good. I think we can all agree that that shouldn't really be covered under freedom of speech. But what about hateful speech? Is it good that we are allowed to say hateful, racially motivated thing? I'm not saying is it good. Should we allow that to continue?
Well, the issue just comes with who decides where that line is. Because that line gets crazy. It gets because there's overtly over the top shit, which is okay, But also, who's listening? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the mental fortitude
No, and I don't either. I mean, and
crack this code.
Yeah, but I tend to default to. I think it's really neat that we live in a country that you can speak your mind, and there are going to be costs to that, and some of the costs are horrific. That's I don't know. It's a complicated thing, and like you said too, I'm a middle-aged white guy.
Yeah.
So what? Maybe I shouldn't be talking. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I definitely I think who said that? I don't have to agree with what you say, but I'll defend to my death your right to say.
Your right to say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you remember the
I didn't.
Man, you're on one today. Fuck's sake,
well, you remember you
look it up. Who said that?
The Larry. You remember the Larry Flint trial?
Yeah.
Where you had freedom of speech people coming to his defense that were they didn't want to defend what he was making. They didn't want to defend that type of pornography.
They wanted to defend his right to make
it. And they saw that what are we getting on a slippery slope if we start putting restrictions on these things? I don't know. It's, to me, I think there needs to be the ability, as we're making art, you need to be able to paint what you need to paint. Like if we start saying, "Hey, no, dude, sorry, you can't do that."
The actual quote is, "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." And it says it originated with an English author named Evelyn Beatrice Hall in 1906. There are different versions of it in French, but it's unclear who's the exact.
She might have been a suffragette in England, maybe.
I mean, because then it just gets to be okay, many people would consider what Dave Chappelle's latest special, many people would say that's hate speech.
Sure.
And then
people are
so
too sensitive.
and then
yes,
and then so
yes,
do we not get Dave Chappelle's comedy special? You know what I mean? Where's the line? That's why I'm saying it's hard because where's the line?
Once we start making,
and who's making the decision?
Well, me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fine.
I should probably be the I'm a woke white guy.
But before Ehud threw that zinger in, though, you were about to talk about your parents' divorce.
Sure.
Which I think is something interesting to talk about, if you don't mind.
I don't mind. I sing about it enough. I don't mind talking about it. It was not the best time of my life. And you know what? Maybe the biggest problem is I didn't take it seriously enough. I think I kept trying to make everything chill.
Yeah.
And again, as we circling back to the reality, accepting it, the reality is that I was really young. It was massively destructive.
Yeah.
And I needed help. I needed somebody to help me. And my parents really did the best they could. I truly believe that, but
were you worried about them being disabled, being blind, to be all of a sudden
I was worried about my mom.
How are they going to look after that
I was
would
worried
seem
about my
add
mom.
an extra layer of fear to it.
It did, not for my dad, because I think, and maybe this is sexist, but I think I knew that my dad would be okay, just because he had a job already, and I knew my dad would he'd probably find another partner pretty soon, and my mom she had to start life over, man. She took 2 buses to downtown Pittsburgh, went to school to get a medical transcriptionist license. Hated her job for 20 years, but like put food on the table kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I don't know, man. Like things like that happen. Anytime loss happens, it's the experience, but it's also the loss of the dream that you had that you might not have even known about. Like I had a dream
of your reality.
Yes.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have one older brother.
One older brother.
And we're Irish twins. We're pretty close.
Are you you're close?
We're close when we see each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We don't talk very often, but when we're brothers.
What does he do?
He is.
Yeah, that does make sense. Close when we see each other.
Yeah. He's a musician part of the time, and the other part of the time, he actually works at the Steelers stadium, and like food service stuff. It's a company that like provides food for the stadium. But he's a really good musician. He's an interesting. He does like a lot of video game soundtrack work and stuff.
So
pretty
the
different.
money's
than what I
at.
do.
Do you guys work? Do you guys work together or not really?
We never have. I think we thought about it a little bit, but that to me it's like dating a friend.
Yeah. Is there any sort of envy issues going on there?
I don't think so. No, I think he likes what he does, and I think he's really comfortable with who he is.
Right.
He went through. I mean, he took it just as hard, if not harder, than I did. After my parents split up, like got kicked out of school and started following around fish for several years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He went pretty full on hippie, and he's a like insanely intelligent and creative guy, and like I think he's back. You know what I mean? Like I think he kind of found himself again, if that makes sense. But it took both of us like 20 years to circle back around. Man, healing's not quick.
No, and I heard you talk about healing in another interview where you spoke. I really liked this because this was like, sometimes you hear something and it's like, oh yeah, and it kind of like validates your own experience.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that healing isn't like linear. It's like you think you're just going through something, and then you get to the end point, and then it's all buttoned up, and then you move on. But it doesn't operate that way. It goes and goes and goes, and you get to this new plateau, but then all of a sudden you fucking goes back down through the roller coaster of it, and you're like, wait, what the fuck? I thought I was over all this shit, and it's right back in your face.
And it can be very disheartening.
Yeah, and you can want to give up.
And I had already been when I made an attempt on my own life a while back.
Wow. And
it was during the process, like I'd already been in therapy for like a year, and like I thought I was doing really well, and it was just this thing where I hit the plateau, and it was so much darker even because I wasn't expecting it.
Because you've done all this work, and it's like, what the fuck?
What else do I have to do?
So it can become like much darker. Like,
yes.
Where it's like,
yes.
It's more disillusioning.
It was more disillusioning
because when you first have
sense.
The eye of the tiger too, it's like I got the eye of the tiger. I'm going. I'm going. We're doing this.
I'm on the path.
And there's like that momentum, and you're all rah 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 about it, and then you do that for a long good time, and you do your due diligence.
Well, I wanted some payoff, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted some it was like, come on, universe, seriously, I'm doing the work.
What happened? How did you attempt to do that?
Well, it was. I'm not proud of the method. It had been something that was on my mind and I'm talking openly about it because I think this is a healthy thing for people to.
It's tremendously healthy, dude.
To normalize it,
Well, it's healthy. Just me sitting. I mean, dude, this is the way 12-step movements work. It's because when you go into a 12-step room, you realize. You're not the only one with fucking issues.
Yep.
Everyone in there is dealing, and then you broaden that out to humanity in general, and it's like, okay, we're all here.
Every single person
is dealing with crazy shit.
Yeah.
And in those 12-step rooms, you actually get to hear about some of that specifics of their shit, which also is helpful. So, but you doing this, speaking on this is tremendously helpful.
Yeah. Well,
especially
good.
Because also people do respect what you do, and they would think, okay, you're like, you wouldn't have this issue.
Right,
right.
Yeah. Right. If someone's that's living out their dream, essentially, which I am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That has a girlfriend that doesn't like his music and everything.
No, I'm just getting sad again.
I'm just
No, I
loves Elliott Smith
so much.
Just
so,
love him.
Massive Nick Drake fan for some
Fucking
reason.
love Pink Moon, dude.
It's
I
her
wish you
favorite
could
record.
make a record like Pink Moon.
You know why? It's 28-minute masterpiece. What's wrong with you?
I know, dude. Isn't that the most magical record? We can talk about that later, but
28 minutes.
yeah, it's just crazy how good that record is.
You could take off Road.
And
That's not my favorite song.
Yeah,
but,
there's like some that are just, and there's a couple lazy ones on there, like, ooh, you know, like whatever, like, you know, like there's a couple lazy ones, but that also is important.
I agree.
Because you have to have like, not filler, but some like that, like I like that about Charles Bukowski poetry books is like, not everyone is like Hal or like that's Ginsberg, I know, but like
they're
you know,
paced. They're
some of
paced.
them are like, you know, okay, that's just like a fucking, you know,
phoned it in.
Phoned that one in.
Yeah. But it's a part of the greater picture, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. And there's something about that, like when there's aspects of work that you can see all the way through. It kind of like inspires you because it's like listening to punk rock when you're growing up, and I can do that sort of thing.
Right.
Anyway, but go ahead with what you were about to say.
Oh well, I don't even know which. But it was wildly irresponsible, and again, I'm thankful to the universe and to God that it didn't happen.
Yeah, me too, dude.
It would have been dumb, but I've never before have I felt actually dissociated from myself. I was in the car. I had just been spending time with friends, and I was just breaking down. It was a lot of the separation, divorce stuff was like just on fire at the moment. You know, I think I just maybe found out she was with somebody else new or something like that. You know, it was something hard, and I hit my wall. And I asked my friends if they would watch the kids, if they would watch the girls, and I just left in the car. And before I knew it, I was going into the other lane. You know,
wow.
and it was it was a choice, but it was also it sounds so stupid, but I kind of felt outside of my body. I felt like I wasn't really doing it. It was like peaceful in a way. And at the very last second, it was awful because I didn't stop or anything, but I wheeled out of the way and no one got hurt or anything. It wasn't like a super close call or anything, but it ended up on the shoulder. It was like a country road in Illinois where I live. And
how close was another car or truck?
If I had not, I mean, I was enough in the lane that somebody, maybe them even, somebody would have gotten seriously hurt. And like, how awful would have that been, by the way, if I had hurt someone else? That's disgusting, you know? But I wasn't really thinking responsibly at that point. I wasn't, you know, I was in outer space, man. And it took a while to get through that one, but that was a neat wake-up call too, because after that moment this you know, the socket was loose a little bit, so the light bulb was kind of flickering, and it twisted a little bit after that. And I had some people that really cared about me one of my buddies said, like, if like you're worried about like another guy eventually having like involvement with your kids, maybe as a stepfather, the only way that you're not those kids' dad is if you check out. Then you're not. And so like I needed to hear that kind of hard stuff. Like I needed some truth in my face, and stuff kind of turned around from there. It's still a battle. I still
How long
battle
ago
depression.
was that?
It was maybe a year and a half, maybe.
So not long ago.
Not crazy long, but I mean, it feels like, in a good way, it feels like it's a long time. I think I made specific changes in my life to not stay in those places anymore. You can visit there sometimes, you know, but
yeah, well, it's momentum too, I find.
For sure.
A lot of this mental stuff.
For sure.
Like depression is rooted in momentum. And yeah, that's why I'm like that's why I asked about morning routines, because mine is specifically geared towards dealing with my mind. And it's very physical fitness oriented, but it's all just about
it's connected,
it's
man.
all about just getting my mind into a good jumping off point for the day. It's
connected. Biopsychosocial, physical.
Well, the brain arose to facilitate movement. That's my favorite new sentence.
That's genius.
Yeah, some biologist at a party told me that, and it blew my fucking mind, because I got into boxing and yoga and I was running, and I'm like thinking I'm a dumb athlete now. Like, why am I into all this shit? You know, like putting it down type of thing in my own head a little bit. But then I was talking to this guy at the party, and he told me that the brain arose to facilitate movement. So your brain is actually firing on all cylinders when you're in motion. So like that's what, like running and stuff like that. Like you can get great song ideas and poem ideas
for sure.
when you're doing that, yoga, boxing.
Well, Saint Francis, man, he was a gardener. That was his favorite thing.
Really?
Was to be outside gardening.
Wow.
You know, and like think about just how he was using his body.
Yeah.
He was, bending down on his knees, and he was picking things up and and
communing
that was
with nature.
With nature, he was being meditative and probably prayerful at that time. There's a connection between all those things, you know. I just thought I was supposed to hate people. I thought that was what Christianity was.
Yeah, me too. It's not. So when you pulled over to the side of the road, was there? Did you ask God to help you, or like? I mean, in that place, were you like?
Oh,
What? How did you get from there to help?
I eventually drove back to my friend's house, and I was a mess. I mean, I've never cried that, and I cry a lot, but like I was, it was that like real ugly, like Kim Kardashian, just like, my shirt is like soaking wet with tears. I asked them to help me.
Right. And you explain what happened?
Yeah. And they're like soul friends, you know what I mean? Like they had already walked with me a lot in what had been going on and everything. And they did. They they invited me to their home, and they said they would help with the kids and all that. They did all this stuff. And, part of that saved my life.
Did you check into some place, or did you just start going to a therapist, or what?
I got in touch with my therapist because I'd been seeing her, and we kind of changed up the program a little bit. We got a little more.
You're like, this ain't working.
Serious on stuff. Well, and honestly, that was more me. I think, holding back on some things, and maybe I needed to go through that.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Like, no one should do that, and that sounds stupid, but like suicide is a very permanent solution
to a temporary
problem. If you're still alive, it can be fixed.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, there's some spiritually. I'm not saying maybe physically or financially, but there's in some spiritual way it can be fixed.
Yeah, there's redemption possible.
There always is, man. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, but staying alive that's the way to do it. That's like step one for me.
When I'm at moments of extreme emotional upheaval, that's when I turn to prayer. But like, I'm not saying that in like, wow, look how saintly I am.
Right.
It's more like that's my security blanket in a dark room. Where that's the only one.
Yes. Yes. Sometimes that is the only thing, and it's probably the best thing at that moment too.
Yeah. That's so interesting, man.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you shared that right now, because I think that
I'm glad you
will
asked.
help a lot of people out to hear that. What are you working on now? What are you writing a new album?
Yeah,
are you recording?
It's done. It's I did another record with Adam Landry, my friend that I mentioned, and he's become like a brother.
Is he Tom Landry's son?
No,
Dallas Cowboys head coach.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Same era.
He actually, and he wears a fedora too.
Dude, see,
he wears the fedora.
Now we've referenced the classic Browns,
Cowboys, Steelers,
and Cowboys. Roger Staubach and shit.
Oh, dude, that was
6 concussions.
Maybe we could sneak in the sports podcast category.
Yeah.
Talking about Tony Dorsett up in here.
Man, I did. Cowboys beat the Steelers, and
that was the rivalry.
Oh, that was a big one for a while.
I mean, Browns always pretended like it was about them versus the Steelers, but really it was the Cowboys Steelers kept clashing.
Nationally, secretly the regionally we still hated you guys desperately. Yeah, that was a big part of our identity. Remember that we used to have like fights in the stands and stuff. It was ugly, dude.
Dog pound.
The dog pound. Rough. Never understood those uniforms either.
What, the Browns? We got the helmet with the orange, just symbol, we're called the Browns. I mean,
I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I know it's not the best. What are you gonna do?
I don't know. Keep losing.
I'm there. I keep losing, I guess.
So sorry,
dude. I'm immune to it at this point. Are you kidding? Like, this,
Brown, I do have to respect Browns fans though. There is a stick to itiveness that is required.
We don't quit. That's why we're America's team.
Again, you've said that a couple times,
I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's sticking.
I don't think it's true.
It's not working.
But I love that
you're out there.
You're really trying.
I am.
Pittsburgh, it's England's #1 team.
So what's the new album like?
It's really different. It's really different. With the last one, we tried to take a little bit step out of the comfort zone, but still, stay a little bit close to home. Mm-hmm. We went like just around the block, then came back. And this one, Adam and I talked, and we were like, fuck it. Let's just like go for it, man. Let's do whatever we want. So there's not a lot of acoustic guitar, which for me,
more electric.
It's more synthesizers. There's a lot of electric too. Very, very percussion, rhythmic.
Oh, that might be good though.
Heavy, man. It feels good. That's the thing where I don't know if like people that are hardcore about my music. I think they'll like it, but I don't know. To me, it's I have to do what I'm doing. Like, and in the studio, these are the songs that meant something to me that I wrote. This is what me and the producer and the musicians are feeling at the time. Mm-hmm. So let's chase that.
Yeah. I mean, I think production is like the outfit the dude is wearing.
That's well said.
Where like the song is the dude or the girl. Like, I'm not trying to be sexist.
The
person.
Yeah.
The song is the person. The production is the outfit.
Yes.
And so to me, it's like if the person is cool, then
it kind of doesn't matter.
I'm cool with them in a tux. I'm cool with them in like, a jeans and a t-shirt.
Yes.
And both look good, and both are just different vibes.
I totally agree. Yeah. And I actually think it's healthy too as an artist to be okay with not really caring, just saying like that. You know what? That's a moment in time.
Yeah.
That's how we were feeling that day in that moment. That's what it is.
That's what has to happen.
Yeah.
You have to get to that place, or you're paralyzed. If you care too much, it's like
right.
It's like going through quicksand or something.
For sure.
Molasses.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it, but again, man, I like no expectations.
What's it called?
I think it's gonna be called Ready the Astronaut.
Wow.
Yeah, there's an Icarus Smith that I tied into sort of the whole record. I like that story a lot.
Yeah, flying too close to the sun.
Too close to the sun or too close to the sea, and what ascensionism philosophically, like what does the story actually mean, and how does it relate to my life, and yada yada.
And how does that? And how would you relate it?
I think I think to me it was about choices. I think there was a moment in time when Icarus made a choice, and he knew maybe what he should have done, and he made that choice. And there's something that's kind of noble and beautiful about that too, but it has consequences. And I look at the ways in which the last 12, 15 years of my life, I made specific choices that I look back on them and they were unwise, and I'm paying the cost for those things, and that's okay too. But it's life, man. It's hard.
I'm dying to ask like what, but I feel like it might be too personal for me to say what choices that you made that you're paying the consequences for.
Not healing.
Not healing.
Not healing. And stacking up shit upon shit upon shit.
Right. Well, that has a way of doing that.
Dude, and it comes back, man. It always comes back.
Yeah.
You know, what Freud called it, what was it, sublimation or symptom substitution? Mm-hmm. You know, you can bury it down, but it's like the mole game. Mm-hmm. You know, like you hit one with the hammer, and then like
the other one
pops up, and then I'll get this guy, and then two little motherfuckers come up over here, and like you can't
hit him fast enough.
You can't, right? You have to deal with it, or not, or you can just die. Yeah. That's fine too. That's an option. But I didn't want that anymore. I wanted to be like at peace.
Yeah.
You know? Fuck it, man.
I feel like this whole plane is about like a healing journey because it just seems like that's what everybody's on.
I think so.
You know?
I think so. And some people run in different directions on it. Mm-hmm. You know, like I was on the wrong road going real fast forward, you know, and you feel like you're getting somewhere with that. But
did you ever read Outwitting the Devil?
No.
By Napoleon Hill.
No.
It's an interesting book.
Okay. I'm going to make a note of that. Outwitting the Devil.
Outwitting the Devil. Yeah, you should check that out.
I love it. Yeah.
It's super interesting. He interviewed the devil.
Badass.
And he channeled the devil, I guess, like on some level.
Okay.
Because the devil, even in the interviews, like forthright about everything, and even asked him, "Why are you so forthright?" And he was like, "Well, you won't ever publish this book anyway, and if you do, you'll be hated," and blah blah. I forget exactly what the quote is, but the point is he didn't publish it, and his wife wouldn't let it be published either, and it didn't get published until like the early 2000s.
You're kidding?
Yeah, so it's like it's crazy. And when you actually like get the audiobook and listen to that interview, because it's pretty fascinating. Of course, he wrote it. I know that. I'm not like I'm not like I tend towards the woo woo, but I also have a fucking grasp on in the material plane. I understand
one foot in the door
that it might not really be the devil. Okay, so calm down. But when you listen to it, it's like it's pretty amazing. I mean, there's like an aspect of just like the devil talks about drift, and like how like he asked him what's worse, drinking or smoking, and this is when people thought cigarettes were good for you.
Yeah.
And the devil was like, smoking I like smoking better, like it's worse, aka because it creates drift in people, and when drift happens, the momentum. It's invisible. It's like one thing. Like if you're smoking crack or whatever, that's like extreme. You know you're fucking
Everybody
up.
knows it's wrong. Yeah.
It's like, but if you're just doing these drifty things, the momentum builds, and before you know it, you're on the bottom of a lot of bullshit.
Right.
And it creeps up on you, and that's the way the quote unquote devil rolls.
Right.
But I think like for everyone, it's like the ability to get to the place where if you are in a state of drift and are under addictions and are under some like, wayward habits, to not give up on yourself and to understand that we all fucking deal with that. Like we are all like, and that's what this is. That's why I love boxing. 'Cause it's a match. It's like, you're gonna take hits.
Right.
Like,
there's no way to avoid.
There's no way to avoid it. It's like, so don't give up just because you got smacked.
Well, C.S. Lewis said the man who steps off the wrong path and walks back to the beginning is actually farther along than the man who continues down the wrong road. So even though you're walking backwards, if you're leaving the wrong path, you're actually moving forward.
Right.
But it feels really shitty.
Yeah, it's still
like
this doesn't sound like a trophy, but yeah, it's a good quote.
It feels terrible. I'm not enjoying restarting my life.
Right.
Like, I'm 41.
Yeah.
I'm bald. I have 2 divorces.
Yeah. The bald is a good look, though.
I'm kind of killing that.
You're rocking that.
I'm kind of
fantastic beard.
Your look is not your issue. You got a vibe.
Well, I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, Ehud told me. Ehud told me to say it.
But that's where it is.
Yeah.
And like, if I can fight that,
right,
I can deny that. I can try to build up my worth solely like in my musical accomplishments or my checking account or how hot my girlfriend is or something like that. Or I can just be real about it and be like, listen, dummy, this is where you're at.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You're actually fine.
Yeah.
You're happy right now.
Yeah.
That's cool. You're breathing.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next?
Self-acceptance.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Literally, like, what's wrong?
Well, that's the point. Like, and that is like when you hear about the fact that like you struggle, I struggle.
Yep.
Ehud barely struggles, but
Barely.
Besides that, he's an outlier. No, but like everyone's out here.
Again.
Everyone's
Outlier.
out here struggling. You know, so
Yep.
it's like it does help you to get that acceptance of like
Yes.
it's okay. It's okay to be where you are.
Yeah, and that's a tough pill.
Yeah.
That is a tough pill sometimes because our metrics are wrong. Most of the time they're wrong, right?
Yeah.
The metric
and also
is
social media doesn't help when there's all these reflections of people like living their best life, you know, and you know, and I do that too. I promote like, oh, I'm at this museum doing this, like, and it's like, you know, and you can't like, I mean, I share about struggles too, like within this realm and sometimes there too. But yeah, what the life you're putting out there is obviously kind of like an elevated version of reality to a certain degree. I mean,
and there's a danger in that.
Oh, there's a danger in that
danger.
too. Yeah, because because people compare. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Ugh,
that's what they say.
Yeah, that's true.
Somebody said that.
No, it is. It's true.
Yeah.
We already stole an hour more than we told him.
Are you kidding? How long have we been going?
Over 2 hours. And I just want to make you aware of the time in case you have another meeting.
Yeah, it's 4:52.
But
we just like talking, guys.
That was amazing, dude.
Before we,
this was fantastic.
It's been an honor to have you on the podcast, dude.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah. The honor is mine, Joseph. Thank you, man.
William.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, man.
Thanks, man.
Really pleasure.
Yeah.
What do you want to say?
I was just going to ask you to explain the tattoo.
Oh, yeah, that's a kind of interesting tattoo.
Yes, it's Tom Petty lyrics. You know, It'll All Work Out. You know that song? I love Petty, man. He was
he's the best.
Just read
massive
it.
fucking hero.
Best.
It never goes away, but it all works out. And there was that was almost like a pact that my ex and I made, sort of just to be there for the kids and to like just to be square with each other, you know.
I love that. I like the
font,
the
everything.
line right here and here too, you know.
Yeah, there's a like a discontinuity to it almost that's sort of neat, that it almost doesn't belong there. You know.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I was just staring at it half the time.
Yeah.
It's a great note to end on this particular podcast.
Yeah.
It never goes away, but it all works out.
Thank you.
Much
everyone.
love, everybody. See you later. Wait, do you want to give your social media things and all that? I mean,
William Fitzsimmons.
It's just me.
Yeah, okay.
It's William Fitzsimmons. Yeah.
All right. See you later. Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/ComeToWhereI'mFrom. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.